I'd like to call this public hearing to order for the July 15th, 6 p.m. And we will call to order for the following discussion items. We are going to review item number 1 to discuss and request to approve or reject an ordinance number 141, which is an ordinance concerning pension board. And the second item we will discuss is to approve or reject proposed ordinance 142, which repeals certain town ordinances. So I can briefly go through those with you. The selectmen have been working for quite a while on these items to review all of our ordinances as we're supposed to do. The request is the first one is for ordinance 141. And again, there's packets there for anybody who wants to follow along. But we have an ordinance number 26 currently, and I'll give the history for this. We have a pension board which was established by ordinance 26 in 1970 and is to administer and maintain the retirement plan for the paid town employees. And then on June 30th of 1992, there was a special meeting by the Board of Selectmen, and it voted to do an adoption of a pension board with 2 members of the Board of Selectmen, a Board of Education chair, superintendent of schools, and a Board of Finance chairperson. And then on October 2006, a letter to clarify that the composition of the membership was held and that it was determined that the superintendent's position may be held by an out-of-town employee, and that the position support should be composed of the following for the pension board: 3 members of the Board of Selectmen, a Board of Education chairperson, a Board of Finance chairperson, and so we were looking to say that the ordinance 26 should be modified to include the newly constructed membership as defined in 2006, and that the approval be submitted to the Board of Selectmen at the town meeting and updated of ordinance 26 be placed in account and call of a town meeting. What we did was looked at a way to properly use an ordinance to establish a pension board. So that's what you'll see in ordinance 141, an ordinance concerning pension board. It was first drafted on June 5th, 2024, and then the purpose is to, in accordance with provisions of 7-450 of the Connecticut General Statutes, the state of Connecticut has amended the town of Plainfield hereby adopts the following pension board ordinance for the following purposes. It gives you their composition, the powers and duties, and how it is supposed to be set up. But it gives a real definition as to what the pension board really is. And later on tonight we'll be discussing items which should be repealed. One of those repeals, if approved, of 141 will be ordinance number 26. And really this is all of the ordinance says for what your pension board is made up of. Ordinance 26 is an ordinance concerning adoption of retirement plan for paid town employees. It was done September 16th of 1970. It's also incomplete, as mentioned before, because it starts off with item number 2. We don't even know where item number 1 really is, but it says item 2. It was voted to authorize and empower the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance to establish, administer, and maintain a retirement plan for paid employees of the town of Plainfield. Said plan commencing in and for the fiscal year July 1, 1970 to June 30th, 71, continuing thereafter. At the time, there was Pat Carroll was town clerk, Charles Matho, John Sasser, and David Wedding. That's all it was. So we're trying to establish it appropriately, and that's why ordinance 141 was drafted. So this is a time for a public hearing, so I would ask if anybody has questions on this. Would this be a time to bring that forth? Ordinance 141 has some things which still have to be amended. Like in the very last section, it should say appeal ordinance 26. Repeal ordinance 26, if this was approved. Questions? Yeah. By the way, there is a microphone up here we can use.
I can speak loud enough.
Could you give yourself, by the way, we have someone recording, so could you just give us your name?
Dave Sherman. Listen, I applaud your work in trying to clarify the ordinances. I think that's great. The only concern I have is treating the ordinances as a unit. I think we should be allowed to vote on each one separately. Even though it is a more difficult process, I think it would be clearer for the people who vote. They may like
Anything on 141 though?
On 141, I have no comment.
Okay. Hopefully that microphone should be working and try to get it to.
Alright, I don't need it, but, Carla Desjardins, Plainfield Pike. So for 141, why is it not phrased as to repeal and replace ordinance 26?
We
Is
can
that
fix
like a logistical
Yeah, we can
type?
fix that.
Okay, because if the intention is to completely remove Article 26 and replace it with this language, I just think it would make sense and, like he said, bring more clarity to what's trying to be accomplished. But on that same note, my question is, how many town employees are eligible for a pension at this time? Because I thought towns were going away from pensions.
They are, however, we're grandfathered in, so that's why we're trying to clarify on this ordinance how it would be. It
Okay.
should also read on the second page, Town of Plainfield, upon recommendation of the pension board, may by ordinance further provide retirement to town elected officials and/or appointed employees. I think that's how it was worded. Is there anything else that we're looking to change on that?
So is that allowing new members into the pension plan or providing for a separate type of retirement plan?
For just those people who are elected, I believe should stay as is and always has been. But for new employees coming in that are hired through the town of Plainfield, it goes by their contract, by their union contract.
Okay, because working for the state of Connecticut, we have pensions and we have non-pension plans and everything has date cutoffs. So that's very clear. If you're hired by this date, you can be in this plan. If you're hired by this date, you're not in that plan anymore. So I wasn't sure where that's outlined, what the pension requirements are, like the minimum age, the years of service, who is qualified for them, and then new employees to the town, do they have the option of a pension plan, or do they have?
Again, it goes by contract. Union contracts will dictate who gets what, based on some of those things you mentioned. Are there cutoff dates? Absolutely. If you're talking about people who are not in pensions, like most of the recreation department, you have 3 full-time right now, there'll be a 4th, but they don't follow into a union, so therefore they don't qualify. They do qualify for a 457.
Okay. So the pension board would not have the flexibility to change those people from their plan into the pension.
Correct.
So they would not be allowed to do that.
Correct.
What about elected officials? You just mentioned the
All elected officials would still follow underneath this.
would still fall
It's
under-
grandfathered into the way it's processed so far.
All right. So elected officials are currently eligible for a pension.
Full-time. Yep.
All right, full-time,
Yes.
for a pension. So would this then give the pension board the ability to stop all pensions for future hires?
As it's stated here, no.
Okay. All right. Then I do agree with the first speaker that for the ordinances, if you're looking to repeal something, it might be beneficial and provide a lot of clarity to the public if you do them one at a time. And have the question be, shall the town repeal ordinance number 4? Shall the town repeal ordinance number 23? Because the way it is here, it's all for one or one for all. So if there's just one ordinance that's causing confusion and people don't want to repeal that 1 out of 12, then that means all 12 are going to fail. Whereas I think we can all agree that the alcohol on Sundays one should definitely be repealed given the state law. So I agree with the first speaker that they should all be voted individually as a repeal of that particular ordinance.
Just to clarify, to do that though requires you to have ordinance number 142 to repeal ordinance number 4, ordinance number 143 to repeal number 13.
So why can't the question be phrased to say that ordinance number 4 is repealed? Why can't it be phrased that way? Why does it have to be a new ordinance to repeal an old one?
Well, if you take a look at the history of the ordinances, that's how they've done it in the past, where they do it in groupings.
But is it
However, if you
proper?
want to do it one by one,
Yeah.
we can do one by one. This is going to get us to ordinance number 1. Let's see how many are there.
No, but my question is it proper, because like if you look at Connecticut general statutes, right? They don't just keep adding on to the statute forever. They have the note that, number 4 was repealed. So I'm just questioning, even if it was done in the past, if that's the way to do it moving forward. Is there another mechanism to repeal?
But those are Connecticut general statutes, which does it differently than ordinances.
I'm just using it as an example. So I would be curious to see if there's a mechanism that can be utilized instead of adding more ordinances to repeal, if there's a way to simplify so that the original ordinance can just be repealed, rather than add a new ordinance that repeals.
So before our actual meeting, when we go to vote on those, I can check with the attorney on that.
Okay, and
I'm just looking at the worst case scenario, which could be
sure.
12.
Right, but like I said, if there's one ordinance that voters don't want to repeal, it's going to fail everything. And I think some of these very obviously should be repealed. So I wouldn't want to see 11 fail because of one. So I think voting individually will help prevent that so that we can absolutely clean these up, because I agree they need to be cleaned up for sure.
So if anybody else has anything else to add to ordinance number 141, this would be great for now, and we can get to those individuals as we go through.
Okay, so you don't want comments on any of the other ordinances at this time?
Nope, let's finish off on 141. If there's any other comments, then we'll go to 142. Then we'll go to 142. Those two of them. I think two of them. Yeah, I think those two. All right. Anybody else for 141? All right, why don't we go into the next one, which is 142. And 142 has a list of ordinances to be suspended by the town charter, which would be repealing multiple ordinances. Why don't we start with number 4? Make sure everybody understands what each one is individually. Ordinance number 4 is an ordinance concerning the sale of alcoholic liquors on a Sunday. I think the state's beaten us to that, so I don't think that's something that's valid anymore. Unless anybody disagrees or has a concern with it. I think we all agree with that, right? All right, let's go on to ordinance number 13. Ordinance 13 was something we talked about maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, because we were concerned with a trailer park in the town of Plainfield, and we came to find out that ordinance 13 was something that the state of Connecticut came up with their own Connecticut general statute. They're the ones that collect the fee on this, so therefore it makes ordinance 13 invalid. So that's why I wanted to bring that to your attention. Any questions on the fiscal year and payment of taxes? Eventually this says it was repealed by ordinance number 74, so it shouldn't be left there alone anymore, right? And we get to our ordinance 26. There's not much to it. Not at all. How about ordinance 53? Ordinance concerning the payment of the town of Plainfield general fund by the Connecticut Yankee Greyhound Racing. Again, as times change, that's no longer there. Therefore, this should not be something we continue to hold on to as looking for payment. So that would be something we consider for repeal. Ordinance 62, authorizing exemption from property taxes for a building which is equipped with solar energy heating and cooling system. Fortunately, we have our tax assessor in the building. I know I put you on the spot. But this is something else that we are looking at, saying that is no longer functionable. So we'd like to take that out. Similar to that is ordinance number 63, which is the ordinance authorizing exemption from property taxes for any solar energy electricity installed for the generation of electricity for private residential use. Again, the same thing where it should not be there anymore. And the next couple are going to be very specific. Ordinance 64, authorizing property tax exemption to God's Gift House, Inc. No longer there. We'd like to take that one out as well. This one is a little different, Ordinance 65. It talks about the ordinance regulating the installation of fire hydrants. But if you look at it very carefully, it's very specific. It's to the Warrigan fire districts. The town of Plainfield does not have control over any fire district, so this one should be repealed. Back to the abatement of property taxes due to the town of Plainfield by the Central Assembly of God, Ordinance 68. Again, it should not be an ordinance out there. That's why I'd like to repeal it. And Ordinance 85, which is a concurrent ordinance creating the Northeast Connecticut Regional Resource Recovery Authority back in January 29, 1987. Just to be short on this one, explaining what it is, this was something that NECOG had thought they would be able to do through NECOG, and they started it and immediately repealed it. So NECOG doesn't even have this anymore, therefore we're looking for you to understand that it needs to be repealed. Back to the fire hydrants, ordinance 93, an ordinance regulating the installation of fire hydrants. This is for Central Village, and again, the town of Plainfield does not have control over a fire department, therefore, this is something that also needs to be discussed and repealed. Yeah, it's all state standard. I think that completes the list. Unless there's something very specific and very particular about this, I'll still look it up with the attorney about the one trying to do it a little differently. But these are the ones that are out there that we'd like to be repealed because they really either have no meaning or no direct correlation to the town of Plainfield.
So, to be clear, Jennifer Descartes claimed the one about the trailer parks, we don't have to worry about because it's already state level.
Correct.
Okay.
Absolutely. We were looking at that almost 2 years ago because we were wondering where the revenue was supposed to be coming from for one of the trailer parks.
Right.
And when we looked it up, we were told that there is a state statute that actually took that authority away from towns and made it so that the state of Connecticut does the verification of each of the parks. And they're the ones who collect the fees on them, so. Yeah. At the time, it was I think if you look in there, it was a $100 fee.
Yeah, it wasn't very much.
No.
Kevin, one of the questions I had, if someone wanted to look up these ordinances, are they online?
Yes.
Okay, so they can look them up.
Yes.
online.
Yep.
That's what I said, but I wanted to clarify
Yep.
that I was right in what I said.
Carla Stearns, what is the expected timeline to get the input of the attorney of the rephrasing, and then when would the town meeting vote be scheduled?
I'll have to give a call to the attorney tomorrow, and I have no idea when he'll be able to get back to us. Right now, he's working on charter revision questions, making sure that those are verified before he brings it back to the Charter Revision Commission. But I will contact him tomorrow morning. I don't anticipate any immediate turnaround on this because obviously we have other things going on, so we could be looking at a couple of months to come back to this for vote.
Is there a timeline when this has to be done by? I didn't want to miss any time.
Now, the idea is once we get these all collected and verified and voted on, then we can actually do a binding of the book for the all the ordinances. Because we do changes to ordinances, a book is bound, and then afterwards you make some more changes. So this would be a good time if we get these all done to make it so we can do a book binding. And then also put them all online. Unless there's any other questions or comments. Do a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I'll second. Make a motion.
Art made a motion and we had to use a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Point of order, it's a public hearing, so isn't it just the board that can make motions and second and vote?
It's a public hearing, so it's all the town.
Okay.
Yep. What's 6:18? Good evening. The time is now 6:30. I'd like to call this Town of Plainfield Annual Town Meeting to order and have the town clerk please read the legal notice.
The electors and citizens qualified to vote at town meetings in the town of Plainfield are hereby warned to meet on Monday, July 15th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. at Plainfield Town Hall, 8 Community Ave, Plainfield, Connecticut, for the following purpose. Item 1, to review and accept the town department report and the auditor's report for fiscal year that ended June 30, 2023. Item 2, to approve a request from the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance to appropriate $300,000 to be paid to the town in full by a grant from the state of Connecticut to undertake the interroyal site brownfield assessment, dated at Plainfield, Connecticut, this 25th day of June 2024. Kevin M. Cunningham, First Selectman; Arthur W. Gagnon, Selectman; Peggy Bory, Selectman.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to now at this time entertain motion for moderator.
I nominate Kevin Cunningham for moderator. Second.
Third.
Who's second?
Lynn.
Are there any other nominations for moderator?
Motion to close nominations?
Same two. Thank you. All in favor of closing nominations, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. You will see that you have in your packets, multiple packets. Item number 1 we'll discuss first. To review and accept the town department report and the auditor's report for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2023. We have gone through a long series of process of getting the audit done. Finally has been completed. You'll see the 2 booklets you'll have in front of you. One is just a quick review from the auditors. It's that big, thick book that was actually presented in front of the Board of Finance. And I want to thank the auditing company that did that. You'll see their name in there as well. It took a long time to get it done, but it is completed. The highlights that I would say, there are 3 highlights, as you always would have in a town fiscal statement. One is a review from the auditing and financial reporting through the Board of Education. One is through the town. And the third item of interest would be what you have for your reserve funds. So there were some issues that are being addressed on both the Board of Education for the way that they process their financial statements, and I think it was quite a few. There was probably over 150. The second one was, I think there were 5 that were being addressed by the town's finance director, and those are being addressed already. And the third one, I think, is on page 7 or 8. It's on page 8, and that would be the 4th bullet down, talking about your unassigned fund balance, your reserve funds, and right now it's at 22.64, so that is also very healthy. The annual report you have in front of you, we do not have all our departments heads here, but you can see and read through that the process is they put a report into the town every year. They talk about their boards. And if you'd like to have, we do have a couple here, if you'd like to have them read, but I would say no, that you have a report in front of you that talks about each and every department. You don't want to say anything, right? No. All right, but you do have that report in front of you, starting with the Board of Finance, going over to the Board of Selectmen, our Finance Department, Pension Committee, Water Pollution Control Authority, your Tax Collector's Office, Assessor's Office, Planning and Zoning Department, Economic Development Department, and also the Economic Development Commission, Animal Control, Town Clerk, Highway Department, Fire Marshal, who is also responsible for our Office of Emergency Management, Park and Rec, WPCA Summary, Plainfield Public Schools, which has about 6 pages for that, Plainfield Police Department, also about 5 pages for that, Planning and Zoning Commission, Board of Police Commissioners, Inland Wetland Watercourse Commission, Zoning Board of Appeal, Ag Commission, Historical Society, and Open Space Advisory. The other item to discuss and to vote on at the end of the meeting would be the item 2, to approve and request the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance to appropriate $300,000 to be paid to the town in full by grant from the state of Connecticut to undertake the inter-rural site brownfield assessment. About 2 years ago, the state of Connecticut, we applied for an assessment grant and did receive a brownfield assessment grant for $200,000. This was a continuation for it. you'll see in the report that we were awarded $300,000. What we have to do to accept that award is to go to the Board of Selectmen, which we approved, to the Board of Finance, which they approved, and then out to a town meeting. So within that, you will see that there was just a quick highlight. A single page in the back that was there talks about the different areas that they've already identified as hazardous waste materials, and that helps us with the grant that's coming forward. It also will look to utilize those monies to continue on with some site testing, and also to put up a continuation of the fence around that perimeter is also in need of upgrades. People have been breaking in on a regular basis. So we wanted to upgrade that as well. So really what we have to do is approve that vote. That's the final step of it. It goes back to the state of Connecticut, and then they award the $300,000.
I make a motion to approve item 1.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes.
I make a motion to approve item 2.
Second.
Same two. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. And
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
Second. Question on the brownfield.
Yes, sir.
You're just identifying all the problems with it, not fixing them.
Correct.
When would that be?
Once the assessment is completed, then we can actually apply for it. I guess this would be a good time to discuss it. We have a developer in the town of Plainfield who would like to develop the property. What he'd like to do is, in cooperation with the town of Plainfield, put his plans into the state of Connecticut with our application for SIF. SIF is a community investment fund, and we can get up to $15 million for cleanup. The state of Connecticut has been asking the town of Plainfield where that application is because they would like to discuss it and actually vote on it. So it's a great step forward for the town of Plainfield. We had a public hearing on that about 3 years ago, talking about his plans, but I think it might be time to do another public hearing with him here to explain to us what was going on. The application would come with his architectural, I shouldn't say architectural, but his draft drawings of what he'd like to do over there, and it would include that for the grant. That would help to strengthen the grant as well. That's why the state of Connecticut is looking for it, because this is one of the properties that they would like to have done. So I think it would be a good time to have another public hearing on that, so explain to everybody what is going on. Does that help answer your question?
Are there any other brownfields in Plainfield besides that one?
Oh, there's loads.
Pardon me?
Unfortunately, there are many more. One of the other ones would be Command. We can talk about that at another meeting. We're working on it. So any other comment or question before we vote? We heard a motion and we had a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Now adjourned. Thank you.